Welcome to Mid-Century Living, your weekly nostalgia podcast about the best of technology and culture from the mid-20th century.
Welcome to episode 54 of Mid-Century Living, the show where we talk all about the best of the mid-20th century and how to add vintage vibes to your modern life. We're your hosts, Jackie
and Gonzalo. Thank you guys for listening today. Today we are talking about the pioneer and leader in photocopying, Xerox. But first, Jackie, how was your week?
My week was good. I'm just basically transitioning from Halloween to Christmas by way of Thanksgiving. So that basically means I've got 1 foot in fall and 1 foot in Christmas, and I've been trying to do a lot of research, trying to figure out how I'm having a Christmas decoration identity crisis, which I'm glad I'm having this early. My plan actually today, after we're done recording, is to go to my local antique mall because they probably have all of their Christmas stuff out. And I'm trying to get inspired by how people back then decorated for Christmas instead of falling victim to the repro Christmas that is so popular around, because as much as I want to buy every pink reindeer I see, it won't match my house. So I'm trying to
Wait, where are you seeing pink reindeer? Because I have not
Walmart
yet
has
seen
them, Hobby Lobby has them, Target has them. Everyone has pink reindeer. I could just do the whole house in Christmas deer and just that can be me.
Yeah.
But I just don't know what Christmas me is right now. So that's what I'm trying to figure out, is what's my Christmas style.
I don't have a Christmas style because my Christmas decorating in my house is very limited.
Well, you put all that energy into the cruise ships.
Exactly. So those out there, I decorate cruise ships for Christmas.
Have you applied any of those skills to your home decorating, or?
No, because I'm not that, my house decorations aren't the same quality as what the company uses. But yes, I am excited. Actually, I am so ready to go on those ships and decorate. And not just because they always have a snack table and the apple juice is superior to any apple juice I've ever had on land. And so are the croissants.
Ooh.
But I digress. Decorating is really what I'm there for, not the snacks.
Right, not the snacks. That's nice that they feed you while you're there.
Yeah, it's actually a really it's a really fun job, and yes, you get to listen to Christmas music for a long time, but it's worth it. And then I get home and I'm singing "Rocking Around Christmas Tree," which is one of the songs that the Big Tree plays. So it's a lot of fun because I listen to that one because when we test the tree, that song comes up. And the Trans-Siberian Orchestra's "Christmas Sarajevo," those two are my favorite songs.
Yay! That's once a year. I don't mind it.
Is this okay? So we have this radio station. For those of you out there, radio is the thing that's in your car that you push the button for aux on. But the radio station 99.1 here is called Sunny 99.1. Anyway, starting November 1st through Christmas, all they do is play Christmas music.
Starting November 1st? Wow. Yeah, well, I mean, that's the thing. I'm trying to remember that I started celebrating Halloween pretty much in August. As soon as the first pumpkin spice coffee hit shelves, I was pumpkin. I was a pumpkin, and I was Halloween all the way through. So the Christmas people are just ready to go at November 1st, and that's fine. They can have I had my fun, it's their turn.
Yeah. But other than that, my week was fine. It was just a week. I'm just so ready for Thanksgiving break. It's not even funny.
How long do you get for Thanksgiving break?
I get the whole week.
Neat. That's nice.
Yes. So the teachers have already started counting down. At the beginning of this week, it was we only have 3 weeks left. And now, on Thursday, someone was like, hey, it's fine because it's just 11 days. So, but no, it was a good week. I got into the Christmas spirit by watching the Santa Claus because why not?
Yeah, why not?
And then I watched the second one because I had seen the first one. And now halfway through the third one because I want to watch that series to get into the Christmassy spirit.
I've been watching all of the holiday baking shows are back. I actually just caught up on all the new releases this week.
Oh, Christmas cookies. Every year I want to make Christmas cookies, but the problem is that I eat them faster than I can make them.
Oh, yeah, that's a problem. Luckily, all of my recipes are vintage ones, and they all make like 4 dozen cookies, so it would be really hard to eat them all by myself.
I still don't see the problem. I still eat them all faster than I can make them. I have a great gingerbread recipe,
Ooh,
and I always have this great idea of making gingerbread cookies and like decorating them, but it also makes like 4 dozen cookies. It's ridiculous.
make bigger cookies.
Huh?
Make bigger
Well,
ones.
they're like, I don't know. My cookie cutters are like a 3-inch cookie cutter,
Oh, yeah, okay.
so they're fairly nicely sized. The problem is that like I'll start decorating them, and I'll get like 10 cookies in, and I'm like, this is horrible. I hate this. And then the rest of the cookies are either just regular no icing cookies, or like I'll just dip the cookie in the icing and call it a day.
That sounds like a job for the drizzle.
Yes.
Drizzle icing over all of them in a zigzag pattern and throw some nonpareils on it and call it a day.
Smart. But
Anyway, we're not talking about Christmas in November.
we are not.
We're definitely not.
We are talking about something that would make cookies easier to make if I could, copying. So actually, this episode was a show idea from a listener and coworker of mine. So thank you, Miss Fenwick, for recommending Xerox and for listening.
Thank you. Hi.
Yes. As the mid-century living history nerd, though, speaking of history, I think I need to start the episode right by talking about the history of Xerox. So buckle in. Originally, the company Xerox was not actually called Xerox. It was called the Haloid Photographic Company, and it was founded by Joseph C. Wilson. And it was started way before our time, back in 1906, and it manufactured photographic paper and equipment, so not making copies. And I know that's well before our time, but not a whole lot related to Xerox happens before the mid-century, so I'll be brief. Actually in the 1930s, 1935 to be exact, that the Haloid Company purchases a company that uses their photo paper. Joseph R. Wilson, the founder's son, urges and then acquires the Rectigraph Company, a photocopying machine manufacturer that uses the Haloid paper. It is also in the 1930s that an inventor by the name of Chester Carlson starts tinkering with inventing in his spare time. And he pursues this concept called electrophotography. So not to be too technical, because we're not a technical podcast, but it's kind of like the key to the episode. Basically, it is a printing technology that uses electrical and electrostatic principles to create images. It's a combination of electrophotography and the use of toner, which is a powder mixture made from granulated plastics. That is what creates the copies. So, okay, almost done with the technicality stuff. Basically, a photoconductive surface is charged in the dark, then exposed to light and a shadow image. The areas that are exposed to light have a lower voltage, so the toner adheres to those areas, and then transferred to the paper and fixed with heat and pressure, and voila, you have a photocopy.
Dang, that is so technical.
Yes.
But interesting. I've never actually looked up how that works.
I had no idea how it happened before. To be honest, I had no idea what toner was. Like, I know what it was because I've seen it and I've replaced it, but I was like, why not just use ink? But now I know.
Yeah, it has to be powdery.
So,
fascinating.
Yes, but that's enough of the technical talk. Let's go back to history. I just wanted to explain electrophotography because it will come up again in the episode.
Spoiler alert.
So it's actually in the mid-century or close to it, really, during World War II, because this happened in 1942, that Chester Carlson perfects and then receives a patent for electrophotography. And in 1946, Chester and Joseph Wilson enter into an agreement to develop this new technology into a commercial product. And now we enter the mid-century.
So now that we're in the mid-century, I'll take over. So the Haloid Company is still just a photo paper manufacturer, still not making copies, but they've been working with Chester to develop the technology. So 1948, Haloid wants to name this new invention to be different, so they hired a Greek scholar from the Ohio State University.
Go Buckeyes.
Who comes up with the word xerography by combining two Greek root words meaning dry writing. I like that, actually. It's very poetic.
Yeah.
The Haloid Company will end up changing its name to Haloid Xerox in 1958 and then Xerox Corporation in 1961. The new technology, now called xerography, is announced in the 1948 Optical Society of America annual meeting in Detroit, Michigan, but it's still not making copies. Now is when the company actually starts getting into the copying business, just now. So the Haloid Company, still this name in 1949, developed a hand-operated prototype known as the flat plate 1385, which was super slow. Smithsonian Magazine actually calls this a messy 39-step process for making a copy. The prototype then became the Oxbox, or Model A. This was manually operated machine that was slow at making one copy. It was basically just a really good quality camera and printer. But now that they've gotten this far, Xerox next develops the machine with the best name, the Copy Flow. And
I love that.
it's so cute. I just love, yeah, once we get to the 50s, everything just gets better names.
Yeah.
So this was in 1955, and it was an automatic printer which produced prints on a roll of paper. And here is where the company finally rose to prominence.
So yeah, the new and better version of the Oxbox, the Xerox 914, was introduced in 1959 and became, quote, the most successful single product of all time, end quote. So for the company, at least, which was now the Haloid Xerox company. And it became so popular that by 1961, when the company became known as the Xerox Corporation, it had reached $60 million in revenue of 1960s money. The secret behind the success was the PR and ad campaign that the company said, which showed how easy the machine worked simply by the touch of a button. And the ad campaign wanted to show the ease of the one-button copies instead of it being a long process. Some of the videos used a little monkey to show that it was easy. It's like so easy a monkey could do it, which is its own thing. But the video is not meant to be offensive. It's meant to be funny. It's like nice and funny, and like, yes, there's a monkey that grabs the paper from the quote boss and then goes to make the copies. But it's fairly evident that the actual making of the copies is done by a human pretending to be the monkey, because the camera is like over the shoulder of the monkey, and when you see the hand of the monkey pushing the buttons, it's very clearly a hand with a glove on it. But it's I know it's funny, it's cute, and then like the monkey waddles back with the copies to the boss. So,
Oh, that sounds adorable. We should put that in the show notes.
yeah, we'll put that in the show notes. We'll link the YouTube video. But what's it like in the 60s?
So now we're in the 1960s, and the company kept growing. I mean, how could you not with the success of the 914, which by 1965 had made over $500 million in revenue in
Oof.
60s money. The company created a research facility, the Wilson Center for Research and Technology, in Webster, New York. The company was also listed in the New York Stock Exchange as Xerox Common Stock. In 1963, Xerox introduced the 813, which was the first plain paper copier to fit on a desktop. This was the realization of Carlson's vision that a copier could fit in everyone's home desk. The company continued to improve on its models, creating better and faster printing and copying for people. This includes the first machine with an automatic document feeder, as well as a collator or sorter.
Yes, which by the way, that's the part I always forget to do. Like I'll go to like our copy room and make copies of like, I don't know, 3 or 4 sheets. And if you don't push collate, then it'll print all the ones, all the twos, all the threes, all the fours, right?
Instead of 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yes. So then I get to my classroom and I have to like grab the student desks and like group them together and put all the like stacks of, these are all my ones, all my twos, all my threes, and then like sit there and like, okay, 1, 2, and like assemble packets.
See, that seems like a fun activity for the students to help you with.
Oh, sometimes they do.
Like, okay, kids, we're going to sort these copies today.
Yes. Sometimes, like, the first people to get to my class after lunch, which is when I make copies, they'll walk in and they're sitting down and I go, hey, guys, I need a favor. And they're like, what? And I go, I need you guys to do this. And I will give them either papers to sort, or like sometimes I have to put papers in like the plastic sheet protectors. And I'll just give them a stack of 30 papers and a stack of 30 protectors. And I'm like, can you all do this while I start class? And they're like, sure, we got you. And they do.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Okay, so the 60s also led to expansion into things like scanners and the use of the Telpac public telephone network, so one document could be scanned in a machine but printed by another machine. And then by 1968, C. Peter McCulloch becomes the CEO and consolidates headquarters to Rochester, New York, building the Xerox Tower.
Which is a thing. It's a thing. It's a building, but it's a thing. And I was kind of disappointed that it didn't look like a printer. So moving beyond the mid-century, the company continued to grow and to further develop. Xerox acquired several companies through the decades and introduced color copying machines and also dabbed in financial services. So through the 2000s, Xerox went through changes in leadership that led to an almost acquisition of 50.1% of its controlling shares by the company Fujifilm. Thankfully, the deal did not go through, and in the 2020s, Xerox began to attempt a hostile takeover of Hewlett Packard or HP. But that's not mid-century, so we're not going to focus on that.
Huh.
But that's the present. So how did it impact the mid-century is a story that needs to be told. The introduction of the 914 was a revolutionary turning point for office workers in the mid-century. The 914 could make an astounding 100,000 copies per month, which I had no idea if that was a lot or not.
Yeah.
But it was a lot. So most modern Xerox copiers range from 7 to 40,000 pages a month, printing between 50 and 75 pages per minute, which is a stat that Xerox says is ppm, which I found hilarious. But actually, the best of the Xerox machines today, called the Xerox PrimeLink B9100 series production press. Yeah, that's the name. It can print an astounding 136 pages per minute for a total load of up to 700,000 pages per month. Black and white, of course.
Wow.
Yeah. But before all these came to play, before the 1960s or even 50s, when Xerox got into the copying making business, if you didn't want to hand copy, your options were limited. So the quote common method was to use a mimeograph machine. Jackie, have you ever seen one of these or used one?
No, I don't think I've even heard of one.
We had one in our school, in grade school when I was in Mexico, and it literally looks, it's like a cylinder with a hand crank on it that sits on top of a machine, and like you put the papers and then you move the hand, and the hand crank, like the cylinder spins and like spits the papers out, and it's got a very specific smell, the ink. And also for whatever reason the ink was purple. That might just be my school's one, but anyway, it had a very specific smell. Like I can smell it right now. But mimeographs were these roller type machines that I was just describing with a big old hand crank. Basically, it was a stencil duplicator. It forced ink through a stencil onto paper to create duplicates at a low cost, which was common for small quantities of document copies. First, an office worker would have to use a typewriter to create a stencil. So you would load the stencil paper onto the typewriter, and most typewriters had a little option that where you hit the buttons, the ink ribbon didn't go up. So when the key, which is made out of metal, strikes the paper, it kind of makes a little indentation in the paper.
Oh, that's how they do it.
Yeah.
Neat.
Yeah. Other popular ways involved a person, usually a secretary, using copying paper to make copies as she typed or wrote, and this usually resulted in a max of 5 copies at a time. So we probably not even 5 ppms. It's no secret really that the major component of a secretary's job in the 50s and 60s was to be in charge of paperwork. Secretaries were primarily responsible for typing letters, writing reports, memos, etc., usually using typewriters, which required a lot of skill to be fast in. So while there was no set rule on this, the plain majority of secretarial work was done by women, especially before and during the war. Actually, the 1950 census describes the lives of the 151 million US citizens who are rebuilding their lives after the end of World War II, of which approximately 57 million working age women, only 29% participated in the labor force. 3 of the top 5 occupations, or at least those who were employed the largest number of women, were positions that would have needed the use of copying. So stenographers, typists, secretaries, school teachers, and bookkeepers. The other 2 were retail and apparel factory workers, which probably used some copying, but not a whole lot.
Yeah.
And actually, this is mirrored in 2019 as, at least for women, because 2 of the top 5 occupations in 2019 were administrative assistants and school teachers.
Interesting. Is this a good time to bring up the 2 times they talk about Xerox on Mad Men?
Yeah, of course.
Okay,
it's
so
always Mad Men time.
In season 1, maybe episode 1, there is a scene where Pete steals some paperwork, like this research, out of Don's trash can and brings it up in a meeting, trying to overstep his bounds and take over a client meeting and make an idea seem like his own. But Don knows he stole that out of his office because he said, as he says, it's not like there's some magic machine that makes copies of things. So he knows that he stole the research because there was only one. And then eventually, a couple years or therefore seasons later, they do get a photocopy machine. And I remember there's a whole bit where Joan's trying to figure out where to put it in the office, and she like thinks about putting it in the break room for a minute, and one of the secretaries is like, "Oh, don't take away our break room," and she's like, "Believe me, this machine is a gift to you girls." And those are my
Interesting. I
two.
never. That's an interesting tangent because I like it's so ingrained now that every office or workplace has a copy room,
Hmm.
right? But before these things were a thing, you're right. There wouldn't be a designated like it's not like the buildings were designed with like an empty square somewhere in the office place being
Right.
like, oh, this is for something. I don't know what yet.
Yeah,
And
for a
then like,
machine that
oh,
hasn't been invented yet.
exactly. So yeah, how do you because these original ones and newer ones too aren't small.
No, they were
Um,
huge. So he ends up sticking it in somebody's office where there are already two people sharing that office. And then they put
mm,
the copy machine in the corner and everyone has to go in there and then there's of course a whole bit where everyone's just like photocopying their butts
of course.
cuz why not? Cuz it's a
I,
brand new
I've
exciting machine.
I've never been tempted to do that at all. Not even my hand.
Yeah, me neither. But maybe
So
it's because we've seen so many people do it on the television and they're all idiots like and they putting their faces on it and stuff.
I was always afraid that I was gonna get blinded if I looked at the light.
But we're rule followers, so there we go.
Yeah, I know we are followers. Woo! I tell my students that all the time. They're like, "I'm sorry, you guys have to be on your phones, off your phones." I'm like, "Why?" And like, because I like rules.
Mhm.
So, anyways,
But actually, that my tangent actually turned into a pretty good transition into the impact of Xerox on the secretarial career. Xerox actually increased efficiency and productivity. So before, manually copying or even using carbon paper made for a time-consuming job and proclivity to produce problems or errors on work because it was all done by hand, so there's human error involved. Xerox allowed for fast and accurate copying of documents. Photocopying led to faster distribution of work related items such as memos and reports, which could also lead to better efficiency for whatever job was being done. Especially in the office style job, those in charge of clerical work became responsible for overseeing the use of paper, managing the copiers, and ensuring all equipment was well maintained. This led to an increase in skills required for and learned in the workplace, which led to a better rounded office worker, which could then lead to improved job opportunities due to increased knowledge and skills. So, replacing the time intensive tasks such as copying meant that the time was now open for more specialized administrative tasks. Time savings allowed office workers, such as secretaries or teachers in education, to take on more complex responsibilities. So, this is interesting, especially because you'd think getting rid of part of the job would mean that you would be getting rid of
the
part of the
person.
job or getting rid of
Yeah,
people. But actually, there's not enough data that points to a significant reduction in secretary positions in the short term or the long term. Secretaries, or as is more applicable to call the position today, administrative assistants, still remains one of the top occupations for women in the US. There was, however, a shift in perception of what a secretary was or what she could do. Traditionally, a secretary would have been seen as a low level support staff, but Xerox helped in allowing secretaries to take on more responsibility, elevating the importance of secretarial work. While Xerox did not displace secretaries from their jobs, it actually allowed the occupation to evolve from low level to higher level and more specialized work.
yeah. Well, yeah. When I was doing the research, I was like, because what prompted the episode was that the shift in like people losing their jobs. So it was actually a nice little surprise to find out that it didn't do that.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I
So
was nervous that's where this was going, but that's good news.
yeah, no, and it's true. Like the administrative assistant position is especially older people think that like, oh, they're just like secretaries, but no. I always say at least at school and also when I worked in an office, really the admins are the ones who run the office. Without the admins, like everything would fall into disarray. But that is Xerox. So let's see how that shaped present day. The word Xerox, right? It's synonymous to photocopy today, both as a noun and a verb. I mean, you always go like, I need to go make a Xerox, or at least I do. I don't know about you.
No, I don't. It's not like Kleenex to me. I
Oh,
just say
really?
copy. Yeah.
Anyway, it's interesting though that the company Xerox does not like this at all. They don't like people using Xerox as a word. The increased common usage of Xerox to make copies means that there is a danger that that word, which is trademarked, could then be declared a generic word. So the Xerox Corporation actually is engaged on ongoing marketing and media campaigns that attempt to convince the public that Xerox should not be used as a verb. And
Aw.
I know I want to see these. I didn't know that was a thing, but I want to see all these commercials, and I want them to be like midway through the like Super Bowl, and like a Xerox commercial comes up and being like, "This is
Remember.
not." Yeah, remember.
um, that side tangent kind of related. Photoshop is the same way. Like they hate it.
Really?
Yeah, they want you to say Adobe Photoshop every time, and they don't want you to use it as a verb. They want you to say something I forgot. Like I forgot because I just ignore it and I keep calling it Photoshop. Oh, I'm gonna Photoshop this. I suppose you could say edit, but they don't like that either. But a lot of people use photoshopping as like the act of using Adobe Photoshop to edit an image. But
Yeah, I didn't realize that was trademarked, but I guess it is.
yeah,
Interesting.
they're a little sensitive.
Yeah, well, that's cool. Some of these campaigns by Xerox employ scripts that say things like, quote, "You cannot Xerox a document, but you can copy it on a Xerox brand copying machine," which sounds so perfect and also
Aw, poor Xerox.
Despite their efforts, many dictionaries include the word Xerox as a verb, including
Oh,
the Oxford English Dictionary. So, womp womp.
aw. Oops. Yep, it's too late.
Yep. Xerox also has much more competition today. So, companies like Ricoh, HP, Lexmark, Epson, Kodak, and Canon are just some of Xerox's competitors. Actually, we have Ricohs at school.
Hmm.
So, they're really nice and don't jam. Anyway, all this competition that Xerox has today has led to a 7.51% decrease in revenue as of quarter 3 in 2024. So this is an ongoing battle.
Aw.
But Xerox has also impacted the world of work from home because its innovation and foray into document management as well as copying has helped today's cloud-based jobs. Xerox actually uses a document storage and sharing on the cloud, which is named Xerox's DocuShare platform, which allows employees to access and collaborate across the world. And this document management stretches to paperless workflows and digital signatures as part of management of workflows to make it easier for companies to manage their reliance on paper, which was a lot of technical words, but Xerox is getting into the cloud-based paperless
Paperless
world.
system. Well, that's good.
Yes.
And that brings us to sustainability, which is also a huge part of Xerox's impact on today. So the company offers energy efficient printers, sustainable paper products, and even recycling programs. By increasing the energy efficiency on printers, a machine that is responsible for global revenue of 9.8 billion with a growing
Oof.
market in offices, is helping Xerox lead the way to reducing greenhouse gas emissions by the paper and copying industry. Their goal is to actually be carbon neutral by 2040. Paper, while technically a renewable source, can lead to deforestation if not handled correctly. Xerox is committed to a goal of a paper supply chain with zero deforestation. Both software and hardware developed by Xerox is meant to make more efficient use of paper. There's also recycling programs. Xerox offers recycle programs for not just paper, but all their items ranging from toner and toner cartridges to their hardware. They even have programs for reprocessing print cartridges and using the waste toner.
Do you know what waste owner is?
The stuff you throw out when you have to replace the toner.
Yes. Okay, so you've handled waste owner?
I am aware of its presence, but not really. I don't touch the printer because I wear nice dresses to work, so I always call someone else.
I had to learn how to replace the waste toner cartridge because no one else would at my first job. And for whatever reason, like they send you an empty receptacle with the new toner, but there's not enough space. Like the amount of time it takes you to use the toner cartridge and the amount of time it takes to fill the waste one is not the same. It's shorter. So like you have to like get the waste one out and replace it before you replace the toner cartridge,
Oh,
which meant that what I would do is I would take the waste one out and very gently tap it against the table so it would settle and then reinsert that so I would have more life of my toner waste toner cartridge.
good for you.
Yeah, but one day I accidentally knocked it against the edge of the table and the waste toner went on the floor and there was a lot of black toner on the carpet.
Can you vacuum it up?
We tried.
Oh no. That's my worst nightmare. That's why I don't deal with anything. Like if the
Yes.
printer needs anything, I'm like, no, call somebody in jeans. This is not my problem.
I was wearing slacks and I had tonery hands for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
But that is Xerox.
Well, that was fun.
Yeah. So now that we've caught up to the present with a story from 10 years ago, uh, it is time for our etiquette segment. So, Jackie, what do we have today?
So, since we were talking about Xerox, I thought it would be fun to find some vintage office etiquette. And I actually found this cute YouTube video that's like an office etiquette training video
Mm,
from 1950 that is on YouTube, and we can also link in the show notes. So basically, it's the video is really cute. It's like they're telling you the lessons while you're following some, like, the main character from secretarial school to applying for and showing up at her first day of work, working her way up the ladder to becoming a manager, and then just like reflecting upon her life and career and her choices. It's just like a sweet little journey.
hmm
So she's bringing up all of the, like, oh yes, I remember learning from secretarial school that this thing was like, that's how she teaches it to you. So it's like a whole, anyway. So I just kind of summed it up into the actual lessons. If you want to go on the journey with her, we'll link the video in the show notes. But basically, the golden rules of office etiquette are: know your work, enjoy it, and also enjoy the people that you're working with. And two, be considerate of your coworkers and be considerate of your employer. So, kind of elaborating on know your work is basically things like, so if you're new to the job, you might need to take some work home to study, or if you need more time to learn your job or the vocabulary so that you definitely know what you're doing every time you're there.
hmm
That's the first etiquette rule. And then the second etiquette rule, be considerate be considerate of your employer would be: do office work during office hours, do not write personal letters or make personal phone calls, plan your personal time so that you're always able to do a full day's work. And then being considerate of your coworkers would be things like, there's times where you can help others and then later they'll return the favor because you helped them to begin with. So that's sort of sharing in that. So those are the two main things. Like, if you do nothing else at work, you should do those rules. And then there
Okay.
were some other, like, miscellaneous etiquette tips that they brought up throughout the video. So admit your mistakes gracefully instead of arguing about them. Ask when you aren't sure instead of making a wild guess. Do not resent or brood over criticism. Neatness and organization are very important because carelessness often makes for extra work. Get there early on your first day. Always dress in a plain, neat, office appropriate outfit. A date after work is no reason to break the rule about simple dress in the office. And the last tip was mind your own business.
I like that last one. Some people need to remember that last one.
Exactly. So, what do you think?
I love these. I like the one that you're like, know your work when you're new. You may need to take home work to study so you're better prepared for work. And I still do that even though I'm not new at my job.
Yeah,
I'm like,
like
okay.
anytime I have to have something memorized, I understand, like, being able to, I pride myself in being able to answer a question right away because I know what I'm talking about.
Uh huh.
So you, like, the idea that you need to know what you're talking about, if that requires you to study a little, then you might have to study a little.
Yes. Be considerate of your employer was funny because, okay, I don't work in an office anymore. So I feel better about doing this. So, old bosses, if you're listening, sorry. But yeah, every now and again, I would do something personal while I was working. Or like I'd be like, oh man, I have to go scan this thing. I don't have a scanner at home. So I'm going to go use the scanner at work.
Apparently, that would be inconsiderate of your employer.
Hey, I'm there 8 hours. Do you really think I got 8 hours of work done? Yes, the answer is yes, everyone listening out there. Anyway, I like these etiquette ideas. I like the like mind your own business. I like the do not brood or resent over criticism. Those are my two favorite ones because like I feel like I take criticism pretty well, but I know at some point I've been told to do something differently, and like no, I'm better. I know better. When in reality, like the person who was telling me to do something different probably has more experience than me, right?
Mhm.
So I like that. I feel like this needs to be approved as etiquette, and I think that we should make a poster and list these in bullet form and put them in the
And put
break
them in
room.
our offices.
Yeah,
I I love how out of context all these tips just totally seem like normal modern tips.
yeah,
They don't seem old timey at all to me, which is
yeah. No, they really don't. Except
interesting
for
for
the.
our etiquette tips because a lot of the time it sounds old fashioned, but none
Mhm.
of these do. To me, they all seem like they still apply to an office job today. So
I think we should give it the stamp of approval and call it a day.
I agree.
Awesome. So it looks like we have landed the Xerox copier. Oops, sorry, the plane. Thank you guys for listening today. If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe to the show and tell a friend.
You can also follow us on YouTube and Instagram at MCL Podcast. Instagram is the best place to send us feedback and episode suggestions, so send us a DM anytime. You can also contact us through our new Send Us a Text Message feature in the show notes, and if you do, we'll read it on our next episode.
So send us some fan mail. Thanks for listening, guys, and we'll talk to you again next week.
Bye!
Thank you for listening to Mid-Century Living. Please subscribe, tell your friends, and leave a review. We're available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. You can also follow us on Instagram at MCL Podcast. See you next Friday.